So you're McMillan, Ryan McMillan. Obviously, that name is legendary in the industry. It's a long history. Um, what keeps you excited about the industry as a whole and innovation in general? That you could just chill out and do what's always been done.
Yeah. Um, I think as far as the innovation is concerned, I don't know, I'm a pretty curious guy by nature. And, one of the things that I've always really loved, maybe more than anything, is physics. I have a degree in physics. I got it because I loved the discipline. I think that kind of ties into the fact that I just love to know the nature of things. I just love to dig in and really understand things and how they are. What I love about this business is that we do everything from start to finish. Like, I have this ability to create whatever I want. So we start from nothing, an idea, and we create it in SolidWorks, and then it turns out into this sometimes beautiful design, sometimes not so beautiful, but we get to a point to where the design is there and we like it. And then we move it forward into maybe like a master cam where we either have to make the mold or we make the stock. And then we move it throughout the process. And throughout that entire process, it's under our control to be able to make it and to be able to produce this thing that was nothing, that was just simply an idea before. And the other really interesting thing to me is the branding side of it. Having a company that actually has a brand. It's so unique. There's two different ways of thinking. Branding is really, this creative thinker, type atmosphere, where manufacturing is more of your analytical. And that really keeps me interested because they're really, off balance of each other. So I really have to kind of get in the groove of each of them. I'm the type of person who I'm not a multitasker. I do one thing at a time, and I do it the best I can. So I get to focus on manufacturing. I get to focus on design. I get to focus on all these aspects of making stuff, and then I also have to think about, how do we put our brand out there? And it's a whole mind shift, and it actually doesn't just happen overnight. Typically, I have to get that part of the brain flowing for me to really think creatively about that. So that's really interesting. I love that. It keeps me the diversity of the whole process keeps me interested. The product itself, to me, I grew up in this industry. I was born in 1979. My grandfather started McMillan in 1973 and was inventing the composite stock on his dining room table in the late 60s. So it's kind of in my blood, It's kind of something I've always known and been around. And then I joined the military. I even used my family's stocks in weapons as a SEAL, and it was is an interesting thing, So that was a cool thing. And I get out, and it just seemed like the natural thing. I've always been around guns. I know guns. I used guns, and what I find in stocks that's so unique is that you can, it's almost like this endless creative opportunity. You can design however you want to. There's different types of materials that you can use to create it. It's like a canvas, to me, in a lot of ways, like this canvas of this ability to make something really cool and unique and creative. And you can do it for different rifles. You can have any kind of designs. Like the sky's the limit, because it's not just design, but it's the materials that you put in. How do you make it? How do you bring this thing to life? I don't know if there's, I've thought about this too, and I don't know if there's any other single product out there that has this much diversity and ability to just make it in any form, in any way, with any material that you can make a stock with. And I just think that there's so many opportunities, so much option, so many business opportunities with stocks. I can with rifles, I was in the rifle business too, and it's a narrow path because you make the whole thing and you're just trying to reach the customer. We have business to business, we have business to consumer, we have all these different businesses that we can work with. Because we're basically an accessory maker, we have, it's just endless. The ability to to manufacture, to distribute, to brand. It's just, there's so much to do, and it's a cool area of business. So that's really what keeps me motivated. That whole aspect. I mean, there's just never a time that there's just nothing to do or nothing to think about. The industry as a whole is unique, obviously, because we're in such a unique we're in a unique industry. We're constantly kind of being bombarded with positives and negatives. We're heavily politically entrenched, more than we are economically. Our businesses go up and down more politically with politics and economics. So it's a very diverse industry as far as like what's being made and what's being done. It's very and in our industry in particular, I think there's just no limits, man. I think that's so cool. To me, it's just so hard to find a limit, and it's just so motivating to have that, to be thinking about that, like I can do whatever I want, all the way from design, all the way to shipping it to a customer, to the experience, to training, to working with the government, to working with, big manufacturers, to individual customers. I mean, sky's the limit, man. Sky's the limit in this business. I love it.